Hello, I wanted to make a tutorial to show how to make collision in Blender for Unreal Engine. So Epic has a documentation page here you can check out. It has information on how the things need to be named and how you should build the collision with slight gaps between objects, and so on, if you want to read it. Anyway, let's get into Engine and let's find an object we want to make collision for, like this knife. So if we look at the knife, you can see its current collision by going here into Simple Collision. If you hold Alt and left mouse button, you can orbit. I'm going to set this to 2 so we can move around a little better. That collision isn't terrible, but if we want to improve it some, you can go here and go right click on the asset and do export and just save it somewhere where we know where it is. Okay, let's go into Blender. We will import it as an FBX and you will see it here. So if you notice, there's 2 objects, the knife and the collision. This collision is named properly, and we have to retain this kind of a naming scheme where it's UCX underscore the name of the object. And then if you have multiple objects, you can do this, do another underscore and put numbers like 00 there. So this would work. And if you notice, they're both dark and they're both scaled differently because I'm in centimeters as my units. So I'm going to select them both, or you can go out here and hit A and then hit Control A and apply all the transforms. Right. So now they're both dark, and I'm going to go ahead and just remove their materials. So we go here to Material, can remove them. And the UCX actually, if you hit Tab, you can see. We don't really need to do much with it, but if you notice, you're only seeing the back faces. We can flip that around if you're in edit mode and you select all the vertices and you hit Shift N. See, now you can see just the collision. If you hit Tab, you can hit Control Shift N, flip them back around. That way it's easy to see in there. All right, so let's pretend like we didn't have any collision and we wanted to add collision. So if you see, we're going to need probably 3 pieces if we wanted it to fit pretty good, right? One for the blade, for the handle, one for the little tip part there. So first I'm going to hit Shift A and add a cube, and I'm going to scale it down. Hit GZ, move it down like this. SZ to scale it on the Z, GZ to move it on the Z. Right. So now we have a cube going around. You hold down Z, you can switch view modes, by the way. So now if we go into our modifiers for our cube, you can add a shrink wrap. And you select the knife as the target, and it will make it fit like that, which is not too bad. You can see how the shrink wrap will fit, and if you edit it, you can move it down a little bit. You can try to adjust things so that the shrink wrap will look better. Like we can add an edge loop here with Control R, and you can see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to put that. Can you see in there what the collision is going to look like? So I'm going to put it about here. And that, to me, is acceptable. So we hit Control A to apply that. And now we have our first piece. So I'm going to rename this properly, which is UCX underscore 00. There we go. There's our first piece. So now let's make one for the handle. So if you wanted to, you could copy from the knife itself, right? If we select all of it, you can hit Control F and do tries to quads. And we could conceivably try to make like a cylinder out of it here, like these faces here. So I like those, right? So if I hit Shift D, that will copy it. Then you hit P to separate by selection. Okay. Now you see here, I need to rename it properly. 01. And now what I like to do is, let's edit that and let's close it up and try to reduce the polys. So I want to be able to see it by itself, so you can hit the slash on the number pad, which will hide everything else. And if you select 4 vertices and you want to create a face, you can do that and hit F. It will create the face. Then once you've done that, you can select 2 and hit F, and it will create the face. It will create what it thinks you want. So you can just keep hitting F as long as you check. Make sure it doesn't look crazy, like that. Right. Now you can right click and do shade flat. I like to see my collision as flat. But if you see, this has got concave pieces to it, so that's not going to totally fly. We're going to need to clean it up. Hit that slash again to see the rest. So that looks really good, right? Sometimes it's best just to use the actual object when you're making the collision. If you can simplify it some. So object here, I'm going to flatten out the top. So you can do this, go into wireframe, then you hit B, select all the top and hit SZ0. B, SZ0. I'm going to actually remove this loop, so I hit 2. So 1 selects vertices, 2 selects edges, 3 selects faces, right? So I'm going to do edges. I'm going to do Alt-Shift-Click to select that loop, and hit X and select edge loops, and it removes that loop. Okay. There we go. So that's a little less complex, right? And it's flat. You don't want to leave those convex areas. So we have that piece, we have this piece. I feel like that piece is not perfect. I can move this down a bit. So if you go up to here, you can select Snap to Vertex. And then if you hit Alt-Tab, no, not Alt-Tab, Shift-Tab, yes, Shift-Tab. We'll select this on and off, you see, but you can also click it here. And you can use that to snap vertices if you want to snap them somewhere. So, for example, I can go G, snap that one to there. It's a little hard to see that way, though. There we go. There we go. It's a little more what I like. Okay. Alright, so now we just need one more, which is this top thing. I feel like fitting a box to it is probably fine. It doesn't need to have all these rounded edges and stuff, unless, you know, there's some reason why you feel like it needs it. Let's just add a box for now. So I'm going to add a cube, scale it down, easy, scale it until it, you know, envelops the thing, move it. Alright, we can view in wireframe to make sure. I want to do this. Right. Now, if we do shrink wrap, now that's a start, right? So I'm going to apply that. Hit Control A to apply. Alright, now I'm going to move these up. Let's see. I'm going to add an edge loop with Control R, SZ0 to flatten it out, scale it, SY, let's see, SY. It's better to be a little too big than way too small. Go GY, GX, there we go, snap it. Okay, let's see. I feel like I want the bottom to be flat still. Oh. SC0, there we go. Need to rename this as well, like that. Okay, now that we have our 3 collision pieces that we want, let's look at the collision and make sure that they're separated very slightly. They're not overlapping. You can go into here and select this where you can see through the X-ray, and then you can use the box select to select through things. SC0. Move this up a bit like that. That's fine. This one I feel like, I don't know. Let's turn X-ray back off and see what it looks like. Okay, that's probably fine. So now you select all and you go File, Export, FBX. And I have a preset for static mesh, but all it does is set to selected objects and just mesh. And if you go through here, I have apply modifiers and smoothing set to face. I don't have anything here set, I don't think. Right, so let's actually call this something different, collision, because I didn't want to actually mess with the mesh, right? So now if we go back into Unreal, we can import what we just made. And I have generate missing collision off on purpose and generate light mouth UVs off on purpose just in general because it annoys me. And I tell it not to make materials or textures. So if you import it, there we go, we can look. And if we look at the simple collision, you can see what we made and you can make sure it looks good. If you made something that was concave here, it might not look like what you think it's going to, because Unreal will fix it to be convex. Okay. So what you do then is you can find that object, so you have it selected, right? Go into the one you've made it for, and go collision, remove collision, and then collision, copy from selected static mesh. There you go. Now you have the collision you just made, and you haven't messed with the object. Now we can save. And then what I like to do is delete the old one, like this. So now we're good. I'm going to make a second video where I talk about how to make it for a bowl, like a convex object like this one. Like this.